If you were to say to me, Tim, I've met a guy, or I saw him on Newsnight, he was in a lift was on fire, there was no telephone in the lift, his mobile phone battery had gone, the rope was on fire, no one was in the building, and people had evacuated the city, what's going to happen? The answer is, that's really bad. And that person, you know, what can I say? I mean, you get where I'm going with that, okay? However, it is because, precisely, that I don't like to see people in the situation you're describing, and that I don't like people to be in what I call burning lift scenarios, that I'm a libertarian. I went to the London School of Economics, that's where I did my PhD, and the motto there is to find the cause of things. And I don't like to see people being ignorant about this financial crisis. I don't like people, even economists, to think that there's been a market failure, when in fact, you know, when I say, and I did this to a group of sixth formers recently in their A-level economics class, you know, tell me about the state failure in this crisis. And then I said the Bank of England is a nationalised central bank, mouths opened. When I said this is a nationalised fiat currency, you can't compete by launching the Jason pound, the police will arrive and take you away, break the laws of tender, etc. Their mouths opened, okay? So I'm with you. I think that what's happening to people in this crisis, Nevada, wherever they might be, or actually living in poverty as I described in sub-Saharan Africa, I think it's a disgrace. I think wealth creation is the answer, trade is the answer, and getting some truth about the institutions that we're dealing with is interesting. I'm going to conclude by saying, in practical policy terms, in the sort of areas that you're describing, I would be interested in looking at ways in which you can get lots of wealth creation quickly. You know, what do we, I mean, I'm going to do this for the sake of communication now, because I'm no politician. But, you know, if there's a part of Nevada that it really is in dire trouble, well, let's go for some tax holidays. Yeah? You know, let's deregulate the banking world so that we can have microcredit more easily in Nevada, you know. You see where I'm coming from. You can either say, on the one hand, this is terrible, and give state handouts, which come with a whole package of moral hazards that might actually drive that person further down. Or you can come with some real incentives and some real solutions. I'm with the latter. I believe that this person should be put in an environment that the politicians should get off their back, that if it's tax holidays, whatever, to bring industry and to bring productivity and to get them back in the workplace. But a lot of bad things have happened. We live in a country where we're all slaves for the first 5 or 6 months of the year, all paying tax on average, and we've got to get to grips with that. And that's pretty well true across the Western world. I think that, well, I take the view of people like Murray Rothbard. I tend to think that that the king alone cannot rule. That whichever political system you have, whether it's a monarchy or a democracy or any kind of authoritarian state, you tend to find that the political leadership want to control the forum of ideas, and that people who work in, let's say, state education organizations, be they universities or schools, they tend to go with their own interest. Why wouldn't they? Why would they necessarily want to include on lots of reading lists or open up to students or even think themselves? That's the most likely. Why would they think slightly out of the box and include people, who are very radical? Give you a historic analogy. If I'm here in 16th century Europe, would I really want to do a special lecture series on why the world was round and likely annoy paymasters who, for various religious and institutional reasons, were suggesting at the time that the world was flat? In any time, in any epoch, in any period of human history, you tend to get, and here I'm a bit of a Marxist, you tend to get sort of ideology that sort of overlaps with where the political and consensual tones are of the day. I think it's very difficult, and it's a great shame, to really get on reading lists in too many institutions, not just in Britain, but in many countries around the world, a true breadth of reading that really challenges people. And that's my complaint. I'm not here to persuade you that I'm right. What I'm here to do, for example, is to say this crisis might not be just pinstripe-suited greedy people. There's another argument with the joke about the Soviet Monetary Policy Committee. Now you've got a slightly broader view. You go and decide. And that's my answer to you. I really wish that Rand and some of her ideas were taken more seriously, that they were not seen as being part of the Flat Earth Society. Why? Because at the end of the day, they will give students a more rounded view on some of the areas that philosophy touches on. And I don't think it's good enough for some professional philosophers to say, oh, well, she's not a real philosopher, she doesn't have a real contribution. But, it's very easy for a religious leader in 1440s, oh, well, look, these people believe the world is round. I don't think it's as serious. Look, we know the world is flat. Look, the floor is flat. End of it. Thank you very much. I don't think that's good enough. And I think in America, there is a slightly broader tradition in certain areas, and that quite right, she's included. I believe in breadth of ideas in education. I'm a natural Renaissance man.